decades.
I really seriously thought about getting a Defender instead of the X5.
The new one,
Yeah,
they're pretty cool. I don't know much about them yet. I do.
I took it for a ride. It was nice. It was, I mean, it was definitely, it was nice. So
There's a lot of people that are going to be. We're live on Facebook, by the way. We'll banter for a minute and then we'll get started. But
then Zach will just kind of wander around and show the products.
Perfect. I thought it's funny. I've listened to some podcasts and read some people talking about things they've said about the new Defender, and of course all the guys are like, there's a bunch of people like, well, it doesn't have solid axles and it's not a true off-roader and all this stuff, and I'm going, yeah, but have you driven in an original Defender? Like it drives like a Willys Jeep. I mean, they're great. Like they're super cool looking. They're quirky. They're awesome. But this is a different deal. Cool.
We're having a thunderstorm now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. So I love the shot on the bottom there. Zach's giving us the new Schubert SP1. There's another angle of Joe, Bluetooth, the Trac Com unit and the Chaser. Cool. Well, thanks for joining me, guys. Billy, Joe, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I don't want to leave you out. So we are on Facebook Live this evening, broadcasting from my basement because we're going to be getting some ice here in Alabama overnight. So probably not going to be out on the road tomorrow. But we're here to talk about new products for 2021, and it's typically.
Did you hear the thunder from where you are?
I didn't hear it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we just had a big one.
Could be exciting. So typically on this, we're really focused primarily on the safety element, and I think we still will be for the most part tonight. But we wanted to kind of shine a spotlight on these new products that are being released this year, and in the case of the Schubert, has only been out for a couple of months, but. Mainly because one, they're going to keep people safer, and two, they're going to add to the quality of our events, like the Bluetooth Chaser and the RaceSense tire gauge, as far as simplifying a lot of the processes that we all do at the racetrack. And it's all stuff that I've been fortunate enough to play around with and be exposed to, and I'm really excited about it. So thanks for joining us, guys. Y'all mind doing a little intro? Tell us who you are and what you're all about.
Well, obviously, I think most people know who I am. I'm Joe Marco. I own HMS Motorsport. We're the importer now for 20 years for Schroet. We're also the importer for Valero, which I know we've talked about on this show a few times. We're now the importer for RaceSense, which Billy's going to kind of go over with you in a second here, and then also the importer for Schubert and Cobra seats. So our specialty is bringing in the latest. Mostly safety equipment, or things that are kind of related to safety, obviously with the RaceSense, but are the leading technology products that offer the most bang for the buck. I mean, they're not the cheapest product, but they're the most advanced product. And we have a fairly good way to communicate the technology to people so that they can see what the value is in it. So the real focus that we're going to start out today, and this is Billy Glavin, who's our Director of Business Development, among other things, and he can tell you the other things. And then he's going to go talk about the RaceSense, which he's been using in his IMSA series participation here. So I'm going to turn it over to Billy first. We're going to do RaceSense first, then we'll talk about Schubert, and then we'll talk about Trac Com and Chaser and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. So as Joe said, I'm the Director of Business Development here, and also the designated field tester. I also have a race team called Junior 3 Racing. We take care of a fair amount of vintage cars, as well as running 2 LMP3s in IMSA Prototype Challenge. I got very excited about this RaceSense product last year when they reached out to us. I think it was in September timeframe, and I immediately saw the benefits of this gauge. For me, at a professional level, this gauge takes over basically 2 guys' jobs, turns it into one job, and then on top of that, it also is much better at recording data. And as Andrew is aware, data is easy to generate. It's very hard to do things with that data. And at pro level and club level and track day level, it's the same case. You can generate all the data you want, but how you use that data, how you record that data, and go back to it down the road is the key to successful teams. And what the RaceSense does really well is it makes the data collection of tire data very simple, very quick, and puts it in a format that's easy to go back and find it. Many of us probably have growing up doing track days, have notebooks, pieces of scrap paper that we take our tire pressures, our tire temp, but it never gets put into a big Excel sheet. It never gets logged. You never go back and look at it. You go back to the track next year and you're thinking, oh, what was I running as my cold pressures? What were my builds? The RaceSense solves all of those problems. So looking at it, it's a pretty simple device up front, just 2 buttons on the side. The top one turns it on. The second one just changes different functions, and that's it. So it's very simple to use, not a lot of flash or flare, but this is an incredibly powerful device. On the page right now that you're seeing, it's on the single gauge use. So this, you can just use it as a regular old tire gauge, read your pressure, move on. The real trick to this gauge is when you hit it to the next mode here. This is set up as a 4-tire mode. This will automatically record your tires as you go around the car. In this particular page, it's set to start at the right front, and then I believe it probably goes clockwise, so it'll go right front to right rear to left rear to left front. All that you can change. Once you start recording your tire pressures, it will move from one to the next as soon as you release the chuck from the tire. So you don't have to hit a button. It's completely automatic. And then once you record it, it saves it, it logs it. The other function this device has is you can also do tire temps. It comes with the probe that you plug right in, and you can do your temps at the same time you're doing your pressures, all with the same gauge. This probe here is adjustable, so you can just set the depth of your needle for different tires. You can get a good read. Your tire pressures, it will move from one to the next as soon as you release the chuck from the tire. So you don't have to hit a button. I'm hearing myself. I'm sorry, I'm hearing myself in the feed. I didn't know what that.
Sorry about that.
Late. I don't know what that was. Anyway, so all this gets recorded automatically into this device. There's a lot of other functions you can change. If we go into the setup menu here, you can see all the different options. So you can change number. That's usually used for car number. So for a team like me that we're running 2, sometimes we run up to 6 cars at a time, we set a page for each car number. And then our tire guys know to put it on that page so that when we pull the data down, which you'll see in a second, it's sorted by car number. You can change the units, PSI, bar. You can change the temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit. You can change the order in which the date is read. T order, that's how the device records. So P's and T's is set up so that at each corner you do your pressure first, then your temperatures. You can change that to do temps first. So you can go all the way around, get your temperatures, then go back and do your pressures. You can do pressures first. So that's all suitable or changeable in here. Gauge mode just changes which way it reads, whether it's gauge, 4 tires, 2 tires. Start is which corner you start on. Direction is clockwise or counterclockwise. OLED is the brightness. This function is very useful for anybody. We use it a lot at our IMSA level, but at a club level, it's very helpful. So the gauge can display either the actual pressure of the temperature, or you can have it just display an offset from what your target temperature is, or your target pressure is. So this gauge right now is set for 30 PSI. So if you took a reading and you had it in offset mode and you were at 35 PSI, instead of telling you that and you having to do the math, what you're shooting for, the gauge will do the math for you and tell you you're plus 5 PSI. So then you just bleed down to 0 and you're set. So my engineer at IMSA loves this because he sets the gauge, and then my tire guys don't have to think about it. They just go to 0, whether they have to add pressure or take pressure away. All they're shooting for is 0, and they don't have to remember in their head or do math as to where they're trying to go. So it makes it very simple and easy to use. You can also set up track temp. You can record your track temps. You can ask where and how you want to take the track temp. You can put labels on it. You can label it as a hot or a cold read. You can label interliners or not. And then you can also label your tire set. So there's a lot of functionality in here that is used up and down the paddock from the highest levels of IMSA, NASCAR, all the way down to club racing. Very helpful information.
Bill, you're using these in IMSA and SVRA and some pretty serious stuff, and your team's super competitive, and you're at a pretty high level. So it's funny though how easily this device, because I've used it like for club racing. I went and did the Grid Life Touring Cup race, and we used it with I had one crew guy, me and Mitch Cobb, who's probably on the feed. was there with me, and it automated that entire process where we're no longer thinking or having to remember to write down our starting pressures.
Right.
It's pretty cool to hear that you're like eliminating some variables and streamlining your processes at your level, and then our level with one guy running the car, we're still able to make improvements.
Sure, and I think the auto record function is what really will help people at any level, especially at the lower level where it's usually one guy or two guys helping out. If having a notebook is one thing, but having it actually in the device and then in a CSV file. And if you want to pull that up, Andrew, and show, this is an actual data set from my IMSA program. This is what the gauge will provide you. So this gets exported from the gauge to a smartphone app, both Android and Apple. It works using the NFC function, so it's a wireless connection. You can do it, very quickly. It takes about 20 seconds.
Touch your phone to it, so near field communication. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Just like you do at Apple Pay or something like that. But this CSV file is 90% of this CSV file is automatically generated. The only things you have to record are the pressures and the temperatures. Everything else you see, all these columns across, are all automatically generated by the gauge. So the record number is just how many runs. I believe you can hold up to 300 runs on the gauge. The time is done internally, the date. The location is done via the GPS on your phone. When you sync with your phone, it will pull it up. You can set it. Obviously, I've set it as Daytona International. When you first get there, it just will read whatever the GPS location is. It doesn't know it's at the racetrack, but you can change that. And there's a function in the software that lets you change it. So anytime you go back in the future, it will automatically know that it's at Daytona. Then you have your pressures. You have both your high pressure and your low pressure. So you can see in data set 63, you can see where we bled the tires down. So the right front came in at 30 and we bled it down to 27.6. And the gauge automatically recorded the high pressure and the low pressure as we bled them down to where we wanted to. Then if you go across, that's your temperatures. You can see some runs we just didn't take temps, but some runs we did. It records that. That's in Fahrenheit. It goes, outer, mid, inner, all the way across. Then if you keep going over, ambient air temp and pressure, that's recorded in the gauge. Track temp, that was taken by my tire guy after he took the reading. So now we have a track temp versus when the tire temps were taken. Car number, that's where you can see where we can sort the data. So the car 33 was most of these runs because this data set came from the race sense that the 33 tire engineer used. Tire set, that was something we started using just at Daytona. That lets us take multiple readings at times and mark which set it is. Hot or cold, we use that function. So I've trained my tire guys right before a set goes on the car, they take a reading, they mark that as a cold reading, and then the next time the car comes in, they change it. They take a reading, they take a hot reading. So that way we can record our build from cold to hot, as well as how much we bled the gauge down. Tire, that just refers to that inner liner that we talked about. So for the NASCAR teams, they can have this record both inner liners as well as the tire itself. Notes, that's something the tire guy can add in. So for example, if we came in and did a reading after a spin, my tire guy would put it as a spin because the tire temps are probably going to be wrong because of the spin. Overcast, that's recorded automatically by the location on the phone, wind speed, wind direction, all that. So you now have this log of tire data by location, by time, by tire set, however you want to sort it. And over an entire race season, you can build on this CSV file and have all your tire data stored in one CSV file that you can go back year after year. You can save it by track, you can save it by year, by month, however you want to do it. But now all your tire data is stored in this one location, and it really makes going back and looking at where your tires are doing and what your temps are growing, et cetera, really easy to do. You can even write your own macros. My engineer, for example, has written a macro that crawls through the data, pulls any new files in, feeds it into a graph so he can look at his builds and adjust his cold starting pressures from there. It's really a powerful tool that he's very excited about. And we use it for both our vintage program and our IMSA program. It kind of takes all the paperwork, handing little notes back and forth. One guy taking temps, one guy taking pressures. If you don't record when that was done, now you have two pieces of paper that you have no idea where they came from, what they mean. This is all done 90% of it is done automatically, and you just have to take the readings yourself, and then everything else is logged and stored in a CSV file.
Yeah, this is really it's almost enabling people who are doing track days or club racing to have like a professional style, tire guy. It can be them.
It can be them, yeah.
Yeah, basically they just have to learn, how the buttons on this guy works and how the app works, and they're all set. And then for those of you that are watching who may be spreadsheet jockeys or guys that love making, custom Excel sheets and stuff, you can take this data and go crazy with it and
absolutely
give yourself some super cool information.
Yeah, and it just streamlines that whole process. No more guessing. After a couple of events, you can get your tires dialed in, so you come off the track and they're right at zero, right where you want them to be, and not 5 pounds too high, 5 pounds too low. Because track time is valuable for everybody, whether it's professional racing or track day guys. You don't want to miss a whole session because you were off on your builds by a couple pounds and the tires don't behave. As you get more advanced into driving, you'll notice that difference, 3-4 pounds either side of where you want to be is a big deal, and it really changes how the car handles. And if you're chasing your tires all day, you're just not going to have a fun day.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of quick things for you, Billy. First of all, just wanted to say thanks everyone who's watching. Kevin Colsheen, Robertson Racing, you guys just bought a race sense from HMS, so they're going to be using one soon. Guys, as you have questions and Billy and Joe are presenting on these topics, just drop it in the comments, and I'll feed their questions to them. So let us know, for your plans for this upcoming year and what your questions are related to these products. But Billy was going to ask you what's the price point on the race sense, and how does that compare with what else is out there?
So we sell them predominantly with the tire gauge or with the Tire Pro. They are what,
349.
449 with the Pro.
Yeah, 449. Sorry.
That's how we predominantly sell them. I feel that is comparable, if not better, than some of the higher end gauges that are out there that don't have the smartphone functionality of them. This is the only gauge that I'm aware of that will connect to your phone or connect to your computer via USB. It really works better through the phone. You can still hardwire it in if you don't have a smartphone and pull straight to a laptop. But a lot of the great functionality of it comes from just using it as a smartphone right there.
It does some smart adjustment too, as far as what barometric.
Yeah, so the gauge itself, for those of you who are looking at it at the high end level, wondering about the quality of the gauge reading itself. So the gauge has its own internal barometer, so it takes its pressure, and it's an absolute gauge, so it's constantly resetting absolute zero versus atmospheric changes and adjusting that. So you get a constant reading of your pressure, your gauge pressure from, first thing in the morning all the way up to the end of the day. It's adjusting itself, re-zeroing itself so that you are getting the most up-to-date reading, just like you would expect out of a high-end TPMS sensor, tire pressure sensor system. That's an absolute gauge. That way it's more accurate instead of just a sealed gauge. And depending on the weather, you may or may not get an accurate reading. This one is constantly re-zeroing itself, giving you the most accurate reading it can.
Got a question, and I just dropped a link to the gauge on HMS website. So if anyone's interested, you can check it out there. It's in the comments. Richard Colts is wondering, can you transfer data from one person to the other?
Yes. So I failed to mention that. So in the app itself, I don't have any data pulled up, but the app is just a regular old app like on your smartphone. So you scan, that's how you pull the data. But once you get the data, which I have some data, just generic data pulled up here, there's an export function, and it will email it through your preferred email user, and then you just email it to whoever you want as a CSV. It's just a data.csv file. So that's how we do it on our team at IMSA levels. My two my tire guys are trained after every session. They use the NFC to pull the data onto their smartphone, and then they email it directly to the engineer, who then pulls it down, puts it into his spreadsheet, his master spreadsheet, which uses the macro to pull the data through. So it's a wireless transfer of data. And then once you have that CSV file, you can move it around however you want. But yes, It's all done through the app.
And it also can work with a USB cable. So basically, if you transfer it, to your phone or to a tablet or something, you have a USB. If you want to send it to a PC or whatever, you can do it.
Yeah, it just looks, when you plug it in as a USB, it just looks like a portable hard drive. and you can get the data off that way as well. It does take the location data that I showed you on that CSV file. That is done through the smartphone GPS, not through the gauge GPS. So if the gauge doesn't have GPS, it needs the phone for that. So if you don't ever connect it to your smartphone app, you don't get the location data and the time, or get the time, but not the location and the weather data. So it does provide more functionality if you use it through the app, but you can just use it as a USB, and that's how it charges as well. It charges through a USB. The battery life is it's like 3 weeks standalone time and 24 hours continuous use. So you
That's
should
impressive
for a race weekend.
Yeah, it's a really high quality construction, like you mentioned earlier too. So just a couple weeks ago, I had a coaching client at Barber, and we primarily used it just as a tire gauge. I recorded the data, I kept the CSV file, but we made like 2 adjustments and we got our pressures where we wanted. But just the use as just like a standard gauge is really, really awesome. So it covers the board as far as like anything you can imagine with your tire capabilities, because we're all limited by time at the track. I know you especially are, Billy, on your weekend IMSA stuff, right? So
I really like it. We have TPMSs in our cars, so we predominantly use our gauge now actually for our temperature instead of pressure. But we do every now and then we do take a pressure reading, and because of the timestamp, we can then go back and look at our TPMS sensor data at the same timestamp and compare the two to check to make sure, one, our gauge is working, but also to check that our tire pressures are reading, our tire pressure monitoring system is reading right as well. So it's a double check. And because of that timestamp, we can overlay the data right on top of each other and check at that particular instance where each gauge is reading. And so far they've been within, we do it in bar, but they've been within 2 decimal places of bar of each other.
Yeah. So this is pro level tire technology for less than the price of your Apex Pro, and it's kind of like the Apex Pro for tires in a way, in that it connects directly to your phone, and the whole process to get the data there is seamless, and then you can format the data how you want. I think it's
absolutely,
it certainly piqued my interest. We have anything else on the race sense? It's a pretty cool product, and it's not made by a huge company that's this global entity. It's a small group out of the UK, right?
Yep. The only other thing coming out is there's a rubber case coming for it. I mean, it's a billet aluminum case now, very robust. We had them make a rubber case to go over it, and one of the nice features of that is it will have a holder for your tire pro. So it's just dangling around. That's going to be a nice upgrade that's coming. We should have them here in a couple of weeks. Which will really help keep them nice and also just make it to hold that probe in a better way.
And they've been really good about, we've gone back to them on 3 or 4 occasions and said, it would be nice if we could have this feature or that feature or something else. So like they've added, for NASCAR now, we have tire temperature with both the outer tire and the inner liner, which is something that's pretty unique to NASCAR. Maybe a few other racing series might do it. But also where they'll go up to, once you identify a car, within the car, you can have like 300 sets of tires.
Yeah, 7 different cars.
7 different cars. So you can, there's a lot of capability built into it that will be for really any kind of possible racing you can imagine. And you can also use it for 2-wheel racing, for go-karts, it doesn't have to be just, 4-wheel motorsports. It could be go-karts, which are 4 wheels, but also for bikes and anything else you want to use.
Yeah, checking your wife's tire pressures before you go on a road trip.
Yep. I mean, you can log it.
Everything.
Cool. Yeah, we know that they're going to be wrong.
That's what I use for my wife's 4-cylinder Accord. I plug the race sense in, and I've got hot and cold pressures and everything.
Nice.
It'll change a whole lot.
Good.
Cool. What else are we talking about?
Well, so I think we'll move on to
I'm gonna head out. I'm heading to Sebring in the morning, so I gotta get home.
Good to see you, Billy. Get some sleep. Have fun. Good luck this weekend.
all right. So I think what we'll do now is we'll move on to the Schubert SP1. And this is something that we'll show it to you too. So we're very proud of this. We've been working with Schubert for the last 12 to 18 months to come up with what we think is the really ultimate helmet. Now, Schubert, it's made out of T700 carbon. It is made in the same factory that the F1 helmets are made in, which is in Italy. It's a facility that's wholly owned by Schubert. So it's actually the Schubert factory where they've made typically about 250 F1 helmets or high level helmets, 8860 helmets. This is the first time they made a motorsport helmet that is not really for Formula One type expertise, but the outside shell design and the shape is identical to which is the SF2 or SF3, which are the two current Formula One helmets. The carbon you can see is kind of unique in the way they've laid it out. I don't know if you can see the carbon. I don't know if you can see the ribbing. You can see how it's laid out horizontally, which is kind of unique to some of the helmets. The painting on it is pretty incredible. It's probably the nicest paint job you'll ever see on a helmet because it's done by this factory that does all the painting for carbon for Bugatti, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Paganini, or whatever that fancy car is that has a P that costs way
Pagani?
Pagani, yeah.
Yeah.
So very incredible the quality. You know, if you look at the seams of how the carbon is joined at the top, Zach's probably got a better view of it there. Yeah, you can see it's really incredible work. So the artists that do it, and they are artists, it's amazing what they do. There are two shell sizes. So it comes in a small, a standard shell, a medium shell, and a large shell. The weight is about 3 pounds, plus or minus, 2 ounces or 2.5 ounces, depending on what size it is in either shell. So like the small shell, the smallest size would be the heaviest of the small shell helmets because it's got the most padding in it. And the smaller size and the larger shell would be the heaviest because again, it's got the most padding, but it comes in 54, 55, 57, 58, 59, and then that's in the small shell. And then the large shell, it has 60, 61 is one size, and 62, and then 63. 63 is the biggest there. And then basically the difference is really on how the padding and the fitment. Now, inside every helmet, when you get it, it will come with both ear cups. So this is basically an ear cup that'll go over. We're familiar with ear cups with other brands that are out there. And it also comes with comfort cushions. So you can try and see which one, fits you better. I find that even with the ear cups, putting the helmet on, unlike with a lot of other helmets that are out there, I don't have to struggle to get the helmet over my ears. It'll kind of will slide up in there.
You're not tucking your ears back in to get the pads around them.
And the reason for that is because of the size of the ear cup actually is fitting, your ear is fitting around here. It's not trying to get most of the other ear cups that you have, you're trying to get the ear inside the cushion. This is a very soft foam here, and it's designed so that you get, when it's up against your ear is right on the surrounding of it, and it really gives you a good seal, a really good noise reduction, and a comfortable fit, but still allows you to slide the helmet on without kind of knocking the ear cup up. Most people can get it on without having to go back and adjust it. I mean, sometimes you might stick your finger up just to, make it perfectly aligned, but I find it to be generally, I can put the helmet right on and it's pretty solid.
That was the first thing I noticed when I tried it on. I currently wear a different brand of helmet with ear cups, and that was the first thing I noticed, is that it slid over my ears a lot easier, and it kind of conformed. It was a much softer fit. And currently, the helmet that I have, when I get done at the track, I'm 2 or 3 hours in the car. My ears feel like if I move them like this, they hurt bad. It's like they've had a lot of stress on them. So I'm really excited to get a Schubert and get that. Fix that.
We did a lot of work on that to make sure that was, one of the things. So the other thing is that like a top quality helmet, all of the cheek pads are removable, and then the crown pad, which is kind of cool. So this is a crown pad. So with the cheek pads, we have between 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40 millimeter thickness of cheek pads. And the unique thing about the cheek pad
as you go around the car
is
page set start right front.
We got somebody on there.
Sorry, I'm going through screens. I have to get to the mute button.
Okay. So the cheek pad, most cheek pads are pretty soft all the way around. So you got to get a cheek pad that's pretty tight, so you really kind of feel like you're going to bite your cheeks when you're starting out. The way this cheek pad is designed, it has a firmer foam around the outside edge here. And what that's designed to is to fit tight against your cheek, but the jawbone, okay, but not to put pressure right in the center. So you can still get a really tight fit protection by having that more rigid foam around the outside without having to feel like immediately you're going to eat your cheeks for the first, several times you go out in the helmet. So it's really fitted very nicely like that. The other thing that's kind of unique about the cheek pad is that if you can see in the back here, and I'll try to get an angle, you can see where it's indented here. Okay, all throughout the EPS has been designed to accommodate the communication systems. So there's no kind of trying to figure out, how you're going to get it in and make it all fit. So there's a channel for pretty much everything that you're going to do. So there's a channel for a boom mic in the chin pad. When I get into the electronics, you'll see that there's actual a space, and there's a channel for the microphone. So there, we'll get into the electronics here in a little bit. All right, so the crown pad has a couple of other things. The EPS in the Schuberth helmet has actual channels to allow airflow to come into the helmet, okay, and to keep that airflow going. The crown pad that goes in it, if you look at it, the top part of the crown pad here is a fairly rigid foam, and the bottom part is a soft foam, and we have like 6 different thicknesses of this. The purpose of the rigid foam at the top is that when it's up against the EPS, it's not going to allow you, by pushing the soft foam into the ventilation channels, it's going to allow that airflow to continue to get through the helmet. And the way that the helmet, the crown pad is cut out is specifically to allow the air to flow in. And there's 12 holes in the top of the helmet, 6 which are generally used for intaking air, and the other 6 which are more towards the back are for exiting the hot air. So you really get excellent airflow. If you're in an open car or in a go-kart, you actually can feel the flow of the air coming over your head, which is really pretty. And then even in a sedan, if you have your window open, you can still feel that airflow coming over. So it gives you a much cooler feeling than you find in a lot of helmets that are out there now. So this is a really kind of creative thing. The arrow is another key part of the helmet. So this helmet, if you were to put this next to most other helmets, you're going to find that it's going to be a little bit shorter and a little bit narrower than most any other helmet that's out there. And that was done for Formula One for aerodynamics. So Schuberth has their own wind tunnel at their facility in Magdeburg. So a lot of the development of the shape of the shell was done in the wind tunnel. In addition to that, we have a number of different accessories that can be put onto it. So Zach is going to show you there in the front, down at the bottom, or right, we have air ventilation spots here. In the case of rain, or if you really want to get a lot of air, you can put the little ventilation piece right over these little vent holes, and that will, in the event of rain, will keep the moisture off the helmet. Okay, and it also will suck in air in an open car. So that was something that was developed for Formula One. It helps with the aerodynamics, helps with keeping the visor clear in the event of rain, and just in general, then to block it off. We also have solid pieces that can be installed instead of the mesh. So if you want to have a painted helmet and you don't want to, or if you have like doing drag racing or something, you don't want air coming in, we can block it off. We can actually replace these with solid looking aluminum pieces that are fit right in. So it's kind of a cool way of that. Also airflow, he'll show you the front chin spoiler here. So we have a spoiler that will go across the front chin spoiler, and that's what he's got. He's showing you that right now. So that will help with some open cars. So if you have an old Indy car and you're driving an SVRA, that's going to be a perfect thing to keep it down, to keep the chin down. Then we have several spoilers to go on the top. We have little ones which are installed, one right on the helmet right now. You can see little air, little things. Okay, so he's got the vents there. Now we have 6 of those that come in the kit. You can put those in the pieces at the top. There's 6 holes at the top, and that'll give you a lot of airflow coming right into the helmet, and it's going to be directed, and it's going to really push that air into it. We also have other fitments for the top. Yep. We have some scoops. So that's a scoop that would fit like that over the front. So that's a dome scoop. We also have a more flat scoop. And then we have a traditional for like NASCAR, we have a top air, which will go over the 6 holes, and they'll have either a small nozzle or a big nozzle. And then even for the Cup Series, we have a top air that comes over the top. I don't have that one with me here. It'll come over the top and come down along the side and come into the vent hole in the front here. So it'll give you air, all the way
Oh,
around.
wow. So they're getting air pumped in the top, and then it's also coming through the
Right.
vent holes in the
But
front.
you've still got 6 holes in the back to let the hot air be vented out. And you've got
Right.
channels within the EPS to let that air flow through. So it's pretty cool from that.
Wow, that's impressive ventilation. Joe,
Yep.
can you share anything with us about Schubert as a brand, as a company? They're a pretty large manufacturer of motorcycle helmets, and
Right.
they've been in Formula
So they-
One for quite a
they've-
while.
They've been around about 100 years, and they've been doing motorsport helmets really, since the early Michael Schumacher days. They really, I'm not sure exactly the story, but I believe that Michael was using them for motorcycles, and he wanted something better for his Formula One. And so from day one, they worked with him. A lot of the early developments were helmets that he helped them with the development of, and that's the basic shape. Came out of that early development and hasn't changed a tremendous amount, since those early days. But it's always been, the motorsport has always been a very exclusive thing to Formula One and a couple of other really high level, motorsports, maybe a few IndyCar drivers, but never more than about 200 or 250 helmets a year. So,
Wow.
this taking this next step, I mean, we convinced them that there's an opportunity now to get out into the market with, the latest technology. We had a challenge getting a well-designed ear cup into the size of the shell of the helmet. We spent a lot of time, or they spent a lot of time going back. We went back and forth, and finally we were able to do it, and we can do it with integrated electronics. And I'll talk about that in a second. So a lot of work was done really to develop it. And it's really the same team that has consistently worked on the Formula One helmet that now is being expanded. And that's why we have right now only one helmet. We have a carbon helmet. The carbon helmet is priced at like $1949, which is pretty much the same price as the Stilo or an Arai, a true carbon helmet. That's about the going price. So that they focused on that because that's where their expertise is. Their expertise is in carbon. Their expertise is not in developing a motorsport helmet out of fiberglass. So that's the next development. It'll probably happen late this year, early next year. You might see another 8860 helmet below their SF3, which is with the integrated Xylon within the top part of the helmet. We might have one in between, which would give us maybe a $3,500 or $4,000 helmet. That would be an 8860. Which an 8860 helmet has, we've talked about that before the last seminar. We talked about, the differences between that. So I won't go into that now. You can look at the last video and pick up all the details on there. So we talked about the aero visors. The next real cool thing about the visor is the first thing you see is this is the stock visor, and you can see it has a slight red mirror tint. But in reality, it's a clear visor. So the tint is really only on the outside. You don't really notice the tint at all from the inside. However, it'll take just a little tiny bit of that glaring sunlight out, but it will not distract you from anything, even if it's raining or it's dark or it's cloudy. If you're running a 24-hour race, it's basically a clear visor. Now, the visors are unlike the visors that you find from pretty much anybody else. It's not a piece of Lexan that's been shaped. It's actually a 3D injected molded visor. And included with the visor on the inside is this thing called a pin lock. So the pin lock is actually inside the visor. It clips in. And what it is it's the ultimate for mechanical anti-fog. So there's no anti-fog treatment per se in the helmet, but by having this additional layer inside the visor, what it is it gives you air in between the two, and it prevents the visor from fogging up. In addition, because you don't have a treatment on it, you can clean the visor very easily inside or outside with just microfiber towel and water, which is really sick. That's always a problem with a helmet with an anti-fog treatment on the inside. It's very easy to get that messed up.
That's
So,
huge.
but
Livability here.
the clarity of a 3D injected visor compared to a Lexan visor, you can't imagine what the difference is. It's just so much sharper and clearer and no distortion. I mean, so that's a really key thing. And they have, so the visor comes with the kind of reddish tinted clear visor. And also we have a bluish tinted clear visor, a regular clear visor, and then we have red iridium, medium, and dark. The medium red iridium is my favorite visor for pretty much anything because it really cuts things down. They have that in red, they have it in blue, they have silver, medium, and then they have dark smoke and light smoke. They also have, if you have ring, and I didn't take it out of here, but they have red. Now this is an inside piece that goes inside that has an actual seal. So now the pin lock leaves a little bit of air, but for rain, sometimes you need that seal around it to really give you additional protection against any kind of fog or moisture getting in between the two things. So that can be added to actually any of the visors, but generally it would be to a clear. Every
The red
visor
iridium is pretty cool. You got me hooked on the red iridium visor last time I was up there.
yeah,
That's
which
now
is
what I'm running, and it's great.
which is a beautiful visor. The clarity, it gives you a lot of vision of what's on the track. So you can actually see tire marks, you can see oil spots and stuff like that. Gives you a lot of what an amber visor would do without the distortion of the color so dramatic as what you would get from an amber visor. We have that in a 50% and an 80%. Again, with inside pin lock, there's a cover over, so that's why the dot's there to let you know that there's actually a piece of plastic over top of that.
And the cool factor with the iridium is extremely high. It's a very good looking visor.
Right. They comes with a tear off, so we have tear offs available for it, of course, if you're in the need for that.
Joe, I realized, when we first started talking about the Schubert, and I started putting two and two together, but I realized that the shape is so similar to what the helmets that Michael Schumacher wore, and I spent so much time as a kid watching Michael Schumacher win Formula One races. That's why, I already feel some nostalgia for the brand, where it's like, okay, I already trust it, right? It's like built into the product. I think that's really cool. That they, I was reading on their website that they, in 2001 was the first world championship that they won in collaboration with Michael Schumacher, and now they've been making the helmets for the Mercedes F1 team. They've been at the very front of the grid with the fastest guys, and now they're building something that's really an attainable price point.
What's interesting is it's really, the factory where they're making them is not a huge factory. So they've added 3 people to help in the carbon factory, but they're all made in the same autoclave that we make all the Formula One helmets. And it's just, instead of having, a part-time process, now they have a full-time 2-shift process to do it. But the quality and what they're doing is every bit of what the other helmets are, and in some cases even more so, because it's made to be a commercial product, meaning that it can be on the shelf, you can have it, everything's going to stay in place. The Formula One helmets were always really designed. We have a full-time Schubert person who goes to all the Formula One races. Every visor for the driver, they change the visors, they take care of everything. Everything is like 100% service. And there's Sven, who does this, has traveled with Formula One with Schubert for 15 years. Okay, but so basically we have all the input from all of that to say, all right, how can we make this really perfect, but also make it so that we can sell it to a dealer, and the dealer can sell it to you, and we can make all the fitment. So all of the being able to exchange crown pads and ear cups and stuff like that, that makes that fit a customized personal fit. And all of our dealers, we're requiring them to buy extra sets of cheek pads and crown pads and stuff so that they can do a proper fitment. The proper helmet fitment is you take it out of the box. Oh, does that fit you? No, that doesn't fit me. Okay, fine. Let's try something else. That's not the way it works. You got to do, the fitment of the helmet needs to be done properly.
Joe, got a couple of questions.
Sure.
And I it's really cool. I love that process, because it's very much so needs to be kind of custom tailored in the way that they've done their Formula One stuff, and having making sure that your resellers are able to offer that service to people is really important. Steve Frank's wondering, hey Steve, how's it going? how to take care of an iridium shield? Is there anything special that you need to do?
No, actually, I mean, they do have an anti-scratch surface, but basically just microfiber towel and water, and that's it. You shouldn't need anything else to keep it clean. It's the way the 3D injected molded visor, it really has a different kind of a finish than what you get with Lexan. It's a much smoother, it's almost like an automotive type finish on it. So as long as you just use a microfiber towel and water, you should be able to clean it. You could take a little bit of, soap if you needed to, but very, very soft. But there's no, it does have an anti-scratch surface on the outside. But you should in general be able to take care of it. They all come with every visor, whether it's the original one or there, comes with a visor sock. So if you take it off and change visors, that's there. It also comes with a nifty little microfiber towel to clean the visor along some visor strips and some stuff like that. It also the helmet also comes in a really nice. It gives you a pretty beefy helmet sock that comes with it. It's not just like a little thin piece of stuff. It's not a helmet bag, but it's a nice helmet sock to protect it.
Cool. Saw that we got another question from some guy named Zach Shucker. Never heard of him before. Also saw that Matt Slay, Spencer Oliver, guys are watching. Good to have you. Kevin Colsheen, Marlon Sumlin. Thanks for being here, guys. Ask away as you have questions. Zach's wondering, where are these painted? I think you might have touched on that earlier.
I didn't say yes. So I think I did talk about that. He probably just wasn't online then. But they're painted. There's a small factory not too far from where the Schubert factory is in Italy that paints all the carbon for Ferrari, Bugatti, Lamborghini, Paganini. And they generally wouldn't take on such a small project, but they were just enthralled with the history of the helmet and what it's like. And so they're actually doing the painting on the shells. And I mean, it's unbelievable. We've had some of the painters that have, taken to do custom things, and they're just blown away by how smooth and how there's just no imperfections. I mean, these guys are absolutely first class, and it's not by putting on a ton of clear coat. First of all, the carbon is laid up so nicely, it makes it a lot easier, but then they properly prepare the carbon, and then they do minimum levels of clear coat, but yet to give you the shine. All you need is, again, the microfiber towel and a damp cloth, and you can polish the helmet to be incredible. I mean, it's really, if you take the helmet out in the bright sunlight, it kind of glows gold. It's amazing in the way.
They really are quite a piece of art. And when we were at VIR together, and I got to try one on and hold it and kind of be around it, I fell in love. I mean, it's like it really does kind of have that like artistry quality to it that the camera doesn't even do it justice. So thanks for watching, Joseph Lotz, Mark Whining. Good to have you guys. Let us know if you have any questions. We already covered the Race Sense tire gauge, and Joe is now talking about the new Schubert SP1 Carbon. And we're going to cover the Bluetooth Chaser and some Valera Motorsport products as well, I believe. But
yeah, let me hit the electronics first. So basically, one of the key things with the Schubert is also integrated electronics. And I'm very proud to say that our HMS Racecom division is building the electronics for Schubert worldwide for the SP1. The person in charge of our electronics division, Ash, is an F-15 avionics engineer from the military, and has been working with avionics and wiring and stuff for a number of years. He came on about 2 years ago and kind of totally transformed how we do everything. So this is this is one of the kits. So this is a particular kit with speakers integrated into the ear cups, and then this is with a integrated mic into the chin pad. And you can see the way it's integrated in is really neatly fit. With it's easy to change it, to move it up and down a little bit. You can move it in and out. The holder that holds the mic is actually a little bit soft, that you can compress it. So if you ever should, be forced into the chin pad, it's gonna give, so that it's there. So it's really well integrated into it. And again, all of the channels for the cables there's positions within the EPS to route the cables through. Now, one of the things here, you see this little adapter sitting on here. This is designed to sit on the side of the helmet over here. And what it does is as this cable holds down, this is a strain relief to make sure that this cable can't be pulled one way or the other. It stays in the proper position. Here we have an earbud connection, and notice that the earbud connection does not, does not stick out beyond the edge of the helmet. So one of the things that you want to be very careful of with the helmet is anything that sticks out beyond the side is something that could get caught on your seat or on a window net or on any kind of a net. So we actually have designed a clip which will clip right onto the bottom edge of the helmet, and then the earbud is keyed to fit right into it. So you can see the earbud connection actually is a little cutout so that it fits absolutely tight into the thing. So when you're pushing your earbud in or out, this thing can't slide forward, it can't slide out, and it also doesn't stick out. So it's kind of really cool how that's all been done. So with the speaker kits, we have it either with the integrated mic, which I just showed you, or we also have it with a boom mic, a traditional boom mic. And the way the cheek pad is designed is it has these little channels here. So when I position this and lock it into the channel, it prevents the mic from rotating so that the mic can't get out of position as far as being flipped over to the other side. It always keeps it in the optimum position. So really, Ash has really thought of everything. If you look at the termination where all these wires come together, the wires in here that are soldered together, there's actually a metal, or not a metal, but a printed ring which goes over top of those. And then everything is totally heat shrunk and sealed so that strain relief, I mean, I can pull this. We've done pull tests with our stuff compared to anybody else's out there, and we were like 70% stronger. And it's also waterproof. So there's no way you're going to, damage the stuff. And all this stuff, all electronics are warranted for 2 years. So nobody whether it's an adapter cable, whatever. Then the last kit is really, you can get also a standard earbud kit. So either a boom mic or the integrated mic. And then they all come with the clip. And then just a standard connector, IMSA connector. We can also do a NASCAR connector, an MRTC connector, pretty much whatever is needed. Now, one thing right here I want to show you is this is another product that Schubert is doing. Schubert is doing these are better than custom molded earbuds. So this is a product that it's put out by a company called Hermes, which then they're doing it in conjunction with Schubert. Hermes is a big company in the high top end hearing aids. So this is a very soft material that when you place it into your ear, it fits all the way within the channel. And they just like a lot of things now, they come with different size connectors at the end, but it has noise canceling as well as stereo and incredible noise reduction and incredible smooth sound without and reduction. Cody Ware tested these out for us during the 24 hours of Daytona. And I think he also wore them at the NASCAR race yesterday. And he found that he used them for 2 of his sessions. And the one session he used his regular molded earbuds. And he said these were dramatically quieter and way more comfortable. So after an hour and a half or 2 hour stint, his ears were not hurting. But anyway, he put in the custom molded ones, he said it was not there. So very, very, very cool. It's a way to have better than a custom molded earbud. It actually has, just like a hearing aid inside underneath this, there's a little filter that if it gets dirty, you just pull it out and you change it, just like you would in a hearing aid. I've occasionally wear hearing aids and I've had to do that. So it even, has all of the things of a really top end hearing aid integrated into it. These are going to be available for about $350. But
cool.
Yeah, so it's more expensive than a custom ear mold, but more comfortable, better noise reduction, and much more higher.
Simpler as well, because you have to go somewhere in person to have the custom molded pieces done, whereas that's just an off the shelf.
And it'll come with a little baggie with several different size pieces to fit everybody's ear. All right, I think that's pretty much it on the Schubert. I then graduate over to Trac Com and Chaser, which is really new, exciting product.
Yeah, I just dropped a link, everybody who's following, to the Schubert on hmsmotorsport.com. So make sure to go check that out and shop around, because if you're thinking you might need one, you probably do. I know I do. It's time for an upgrade, so make sure to check it out.
And I think we're giving a free bag away with Schubert's now, if you a real helmet bag, if you want it, with the hold your head and neck restraint and everything
Oh,
else.
cool.
All
Yeah.
right, next thing is, I think you're all familiar with the Trac Com. And this is our Trac Com version 2, which we came out with the beginning of last year. All set to go crazy. We got official, announced as the official communicator for BMW, CCA, HPDE. And then they promptly, COVID hit and promptly everything was no in-car instruction. So that was kind of a little bit of a disappointment. But the big problem that we faced last year, if for those of us that are instructors and we're trying to teach, is what do we do with lead follow? And lead follow, Andrew's done a lot of seminars and stuff and talked and tried to teach people how to do lead follow stuff, but it's difficult to try to do things with hand signals. So we quickly went to town and we developed these two little things here, and this is called the Chaser. What the Chaser is it's a box. You get two Bluetooth units. And what these will do is they will use all of the adapter cables and connectors. So the student boom or any of the cables that you would use to plug into your helmet, they will plug into the Chaser. And then the Chaser has a Bluetooth connection to your cell phone. It also has volume buttons, so you can change the volume. So basically you can do a Bluetooth connection to your cell phone, one also for your student. Okay, and then they can put the phone in the car, and then they have full two-way communication. And if you have four students, then what you can do, and you can see it there mounted on the side of the helmet. It only weighs 2 ounces, so it's no weight. It has a battery, which is good for about 10 hours. But it will give you the ability to have two-way communication with 2 students, or if you have 4 chasers, I could have 3 students, an instructor and 3 students. We've also tested it with Apex Pro so that it will not interfere with the operation of your Apex. So if you're using your Apex Pro for data and accumulating that, you can still use the Chaser in conjunction with the Apex Pro without any problem. But you can throw the phone into the glove box, and now I can still control the volume right off of the Chaser without having to worry about it. Now, not every Trac, unfortunately, has perfect cell coverage, so it does depend on having cell coverage. But providing that you've got the cell coverage, it's a great tool. I mean, now you can do lead follow and you can do follow lead. You can halfway through say, hey, all right, I'm going to follow you through this next corner. I can give instructions just almost as if I'm sitting in the right-hand seat. And not trying to do everything by looking in my mirror or having students look in their mirror. So it's a real positive thing. You get 2 of the Chaser units for $149. So it's not bad. And as I said, it works with all of the same adapter cables. So for a student boom, so if a student, you can give them their student boom that you would normally give them, and they can plug that into the Chaser, or they can plug it into, we have Stilo adapter cables and RU adapter cables and all that. We also have, as he's shown you, we have a little short adapter cable. So for an instructor, if they want to put it right on their helmet, we have short adapter cables that'll go from their IMSA connector or Stilo directly to it.
This guy.
Yep, that guy. We also have a cable that will go from a Garmin Catalyst to all of our connectors for all of our adapters. And we are working on, we thought we had the Chaser hooked up to the Garmin Catalyst, and we have a little issue on that. We're working on that. And hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll have a solution where you'll be able to use just one of the Chaser units and use it with the Garmin Catalyst. So
Joe, we got a question from Kevin Colshane. He's wondering what the range is on the Chaser unit.
Well, it's the range of your phone. So basically each person, the Chaser is not communicating Chaser to Chaser. The Chaser is using is a Bluetooth connection to your phone. So you basically could be in 2 different states. Andrew, I know, was sitting with his helmet in his office using a Chaser to make phone calls last week. So it's really just dependent on what the range is of your cell phone. So as long as you have a good cell phone connection, you're good to go.
Yeah, it's a seamless product to operate as well. I mean, I pulled it out of the box and had it connected to my helmet, Bluetooth to my phone, making phone calls to people all around the country in probably, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. I mean, it's really simple. If you're familiar with your Apex Pro, and you probably are if you're watching this is a really, really easy product to operate in a similar vein to an Apex Pro. You just open your settings on your phone, you find Chaser and the Bluetooth, you connect to it. The little unit turns blue with there's a light that turns blue when you're connected. And then Kevin, I was in my office and I called Eric Meyer, I called Joe, I called a couple other people, and just, having a phone conversation in my helmet. So there's, Joe, and I was going to say, like you said, I've got a lot of experience with lead follow, and it's really fun. I really enjoy it. I think it's a valuable learning tool in a lot of ways, but the traditional way that we've done it when I've worked for the Porsche program here at Barber and in other programs is using handheld radios. The instructor's actually holding a radio, and then the student has a radio somewhere in their car. So you don't have great audio quality. The instructor only has one hand on the steering wheel. I've done that with, shifting an H pattern gearbox and, left hand with the radio, right? And it just doesn't go well. And for the HPD environment, that's one track, one type of car, very well-trained, highly professional instructors. For the HPD environment, we need a product that anybody can come to an HPD event as a complete novice and be able to get instruction and have our instructors who may not be at the track every single weekend, right? And we do this for fun as well. Something that they can use where they can keep both hands on the wheel, stay focused. And this is really the tool that allows that to work. I mean, I hope we adopt it, at the other driving programs around the country, because it's.
I mean, so basically what you could do is you could take your Apex Pro with the crew view. You can be in the paddock, you can be watching your student be out there, and you can be communicating with your student who happens to be out on the track, and you can be talking to him based on what you're seeing off crew view. So it's got a lot of uses, all the way around. And
I can't wait to do that.
I think this year it's going to be a good, it's a good alternative. I mean, we try to keep the price down as much as we could. And the fact that it's, works with all of the existing adapter cables, that should make it, fairly simple.
Yeah.
The one thing I forgot to mention on the Trac Com, so I said the version 2, if you have a version 1.5, so the difference between a 1.5 and a 2, the initial version had ears on the side, okay, for the volume control. Version 1.5 has the volume controls on the face. And then version 2 will have a little V2 here. If you don't have a version 2 and you want to get one, which has dual amplifiers, much better volume control, a little bit better filtering out of any kind of interference that might be in the car, we will do an upgrade of your version 1 to a version 2 for $58. Or if you have a version 1.5 to version 2 for $58, you have to send it in, we'll do it. If you have a version 1 and you can prove proof of purchase, we will actually, for $85, we'll just sell you a version 2, and you can keep your version 1 as a backup. So we want to try to accommodate people. All the adapter cables and everything else work from version 1 to version 2, so you don't have to swap out all that stuff. The student boom was redone also this year. It has a bigger speaker, has a nice cushy thing. It's a little bit thinner. It's not going to kill your ear going up. So we did a lot of work on this to get better volume again. It has a little filter in the back here, so it allows the speaker to vibrate. That helps a lot with volume too. So plus it's nice and cool because it has different colors now. So that's new with Trac Com and Racecom. The only other thing I wanted to mention today, because we want to wrap up here pretty soon, is we found this product, which you may or may not be familiar with. This is called Element. And what Element is it looks like a flare. It works like a flare, but it is a 50-second fire extinguisher. So basically I just pull off the top, and then I pull off the bottom, and I strike the top just like you would a flare. And now what it does is it puts out a gas which will run for 50 seconds with this one. And there's a 100-second one that's a little bit bigger. And it's not toxic to, if you breathe it in, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to be comfortable, but it's not like Halon or FE36 or something like that. And it gives no residue. So basically it starves the oxygen out of the fire, gets the fire out, and leaves no residue. And you've got 50 seconds, which is quite a long time actually with this. It's a great thing to put in your car. Actually, PCA is allowing these as your fire extinguisher in the car for HPTE. I use it. I have a couple of them at my house. I put it rather than a fire extinguisher at the house, which you've had for 10 years and has long since, you have no idea whether it's going to work and it's going to make a mess. this is
Phil.
going to work great. Andrew can put one in this Discovery because it's a British car and you never know what's going to happen there.
Right. I probably need two.
Yeah. I'll put one. I have one in I have a 72 Italian Mini. So I definitely have one of those in that car. But it's, being able to put out a fire almost immediately and without any residue is a huge benefit. So these things are pretty cool. They're not that expensive. You can get them online on our website, and we have dealers around that also have them. They have mounts. You can see there's a mount there for a roll bar. They have a magnetic mount if you want to have it for your house. They have another one that you can attach to the wall, a little plastic thing there. So there's all those things are accessories that go with it.
Yeah, the Element's super cool. That's a very cool product to have, even if you just need something for your street car, even if you're just modifying your car on the road and you're going, hey, this thing runs on high octane fuel, or if you have any of those concerns.
Or your garage. I mean, I basically replaced all the extinguishers in my house, and we put them around the shop too, because it's going to put the fire out quicker, and it's for all types of fires. So it doesn't matter whether you have a grease fire or whatever. It's gonna
right. You don't have to worry about the type of fire extinguisher, what it's rated for, and yeah.
And you don't have to worry about all the cleanup.
That's cool. That's really cool. Brian Tanner, glad you're on here. Eric Hawk, Clifford Robertson, thanks for joining in, guys. Clifford, make sure you check out the Bluetooth Chaser. Look up in the comments for the Trac Com Chaser. As an instructor, you're going to want to know about that. It's a lead follow tool, but regardless of if you're doing lead follow or not, there's going to be a lot of ways you can use that and leverage it with the track.
Yep. So we covered a lot of stuff. I know that it was, typically we talk about safety stuff and more in a generic sense, and we don't really talk about our products in particular. I appreciate, Andrew, you giving us the opportunity to be blatantly sales oriented. We don't normally do that, and I promise I won't do that the next time. The next talk, hopefully, we're going to do will be on fire systems, because we haven't really covered that topic yet effectively. But I think that, we want to get the word out certainly on the Schubert, but we also want to get the word out on Trac Com and Chaser and the Race Sense, because I think these are tools that can make our track days and our racing much more productive and much more enjoyable. So I really appreciate the time, and it's always fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks everybody who jumped in and asked questions, and we'll be back talking about fire systems in the future. So for those,
I want to thank Zach here for doing the video. He's done
yeah, thanks Zach. Very high quality. Appreciate it. Yeah. So Joe, I really enjoyed it. I learned some stuff about the Schubert that I was curious about, and I'm really excited about seeing more of those out there. Look at that thing. It's stunning.
I'm excited to see more out there too.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. I think as the season picks up, anybody that's in the market for a carbon helmet, or if you're willing to invest in your safety, a sub $2,000 carbon helmet is in my opinion, that's a high value. That's where the price point is for something like that, and it makes a substantial difference having a lightweight helmet. We've been through that. If you're curious about why would I spend an extra $1,200, $1,000 on a helmet, go watch our episode on helmets and understand and learn about the physics behind what happens when you're in a crash and how much your head moves, how much stress the weight of the helmet puts on your neck. Right. And I know, spending as much time in the car as I do, my next helmet will be a carbon helmet. It's going to be that Schubert sitting right there.
And the T700 carbon is basically, a lot of the carbon helmets, 8860 helmets, are made out of T700 carbon. So it's a very high quality carbon. We showed one of the engineers from a carbon company that does Formula One work around the corner from us. He saw the carbon, the helmet, and he was very impressed with not only the layup but the whole way things done. So it is really cool. So, but we appreciate all your time, and if you have any questions, send them on. I think if you're a dealer and you're looking for a nice helmet to carry, or tire gauge, or all the products that we talked about today, we have available through our dealer network. And we're, helmets in particular, we really want to get as many dealers out there to carry them as possible, because I really prefer that people don't buy a helmet mail order. I prefer that you go somewhere, you try it on, you get properly sized and properly fitted. So if you're a dealer out there, or if you've got a small shop and you're willing to, to work with us, we'd like to work with you and get it because, again, you should ideally shop locally and shop with a dealer that has experience and can do the good job for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a huge difference when you're talking about a value-added situation like that, like a fitted helmet. You want somebody who knows what cheek pads you need, knows the different sizing options, is very familiar with what the different visors and the different, I mean, there's so many layers to the helmet buying situation. I'll never buy one, remotely again if I'm gonna go get it, fit properly for my head. And I think that's the way people should look into it. But I've got a couple of Apex Pro webinars to talk about that we've got next week. We're doing an Apex Pro new users webinar that's free next Wednesday, and that's at noon. So if you're free during the lunch hour next week, even if you're not a super new user, if you're just getting more acquainted with the app, there's probably some information in there you're going to want to see. Certainly share that information with your friends that you're trying to talk into buying an Apex Pro or that are newer Apex Pro users. And then, Joe, that same night, I've actually got Robbie Foley of IMSA GTD fame running with Bill Alberlin, and he's coming on board for a webinar with me that's $59, and we're going to talk about safe and strategic passing. So how, kind of more or less, how can you use some of the strategies and the racecraft that he's implementing at the IMSA level in an HPD environment or a club racing environment? So, the Rolex 24 is a perfect example. Those guys they're door-to-door, bumper-to-bumper for 24 hours, and you see very little incidents and a lot of really, really good racing. So we have a lot to learn from that for the HPD environment as far as spatial awareness, how to gauge closing speed, appropriate passing distances, things like that. So if you want to get better on the track with your racecraft, you're not going to want to miss out on that. And $60 is not a lot of money to pay to get some time with an IMSA race winner and a guy like Robbie.
Yeah, your seminars have been really very effective. I encourage anybody to really, take the opportunity because you don't really get that kind of an opportunity with, plus having a moderator that is a racer and that does a lot of the training, the questions that you get that Andrew and the interaction between the two really makes a huge difference. We've learned a lot working with Andrew over the last couple of years, and so it's. I really encourage you to take advantage of some of the webinars.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Again, I really appreciate you guys being here, and we'll be back at an undisclosed time in the future. We'll post as soon as we know to talk about fire extinguishers and get safer on the track.
Great.
Awesome. All righty. Thanks for joining us.